This is the Tree of Lights. I'll name that because it's a tree and everything is made out of lights. This one is, I think, my second oldest, probably 15, 16 years. The base support is 3/4 inch electrical conduit, and it's the heavy stuff that's threaded at the end. You'll notice if you look over at the left and up at the house and kind of up at the top, there's some guy wires that hold it in place, 3 of them, so that helps triangulate it in. That was really required in the first version of this, which used thinner tubing. This tubing is actually strong enough, you probably don't need it. And then galvanized wire to kind of define the curve, and then we just have a bunch of lights. The base, the trunk is gold, wrapped around a piece of pipe, so those are just LEDs. All of the branches are just green LEDs, so there are 5 branches going up. On top, I don't know if I can get that. That just isn't focusing. On top, there's this little assembly. I wanted it to be yellow like a sun. It's a little assembly that I think has 40 LEDs, yellow LEDs, that are pretty much as high an output as I can find. So those are very bright. In fact, those and the ornaments were bright enough that I actually had to go back and dim down a bunch of them, just because you'd be standing across the street and it was actually painful to look at. The yellow at the top is still a little painful to look at, but that's kind of the goal. So let's go up and look at the ornaments. So this looks, sometimes they get turned around due to the wind. So ornaments, just typical Christmas shapes. These were done before I had a laser cutter, which means it's one of the reasons why they're like rectangular. All the holes were laid out by hand and then cut using a 5mm end mill. You can't, cutting acrylic, this is just plexiglass, but cutting acrylic with a normal drill just tends to crack it all to hell. So you either need a special plastic drill bit or you need an end mill. And the end mill actually worked quite well. So I'm happy I did that. And then, so that's hooked up. These run off of AC. You notice the plug there is just a standard plug. So you have 110 volts coming in. There's a full wave rectifier here to go from 110 volts to, to go from AC to DC. And then the wiring itself is done in a bunch of different chains, set up to give me the current that I wanted and deal with the appropriate voltage. So you might have 10 or 12 LEDs, or you might even have 30 LEDs. Here, let's look at this one. So this guy has 1 chain. So all of those LEDs are hooked up in series. And then there's 1 resistor there sized to keep the current appropriate through all the LEDs. And then because these are high voltage, there's a whole lot of silicone on the back. And these have also held up pretty well. You know, so there's a little bit of corrosion. If you kind of look from a color perspective, you can see a little bit of corrosion. But these have to be 15, 16, 17 years. So they've held up really well. So we have wiring, comes down into the controller. This is another, I think this is also a 68HC11 based controller. This time doing 16 channels. So pause a bit for the garbage truck. This is the tree of lights. So start at the top branch, come down, get to the bottom, the base turns on, the other branches turn back on, and we have a very bright yellow at the top. The white general lights turn on, and then we have a bunch of different colored ornaments, different shaped ornaments that turn on and then off and flash and do that sort of thing. This is 16 channels total, and the ornaments are very, very bright. I'm standing about 50 feet away, and they're kind of painful to look at even from that distance. So they'll flash for a while, flash a little faster. And then we'll turn off, and we're done.